This man right here is the president of Botswana. Botswana, you know what Botswana is? Here it is. Lovely country, beautiful people. Botswana is one of the biggest producer of diamond. Now this president wants to change things. Let's listen to what he has to say.
We are here today as Namibia and Botswana. We've been here before, many times in fact. And I'd like to call upon all of us to take a stand in relation to two critical questions that philosophers have dealt with, wrestled with over time and climbed over the years.
You have to be very strong to fix Africa. You have to be very strong.
The first, they say, is the problem of context and contextuality. What is our relationship with the present circumstances in which we find ourselves? The habitual settings of our actions. How do we relate with them? We may relate with them from a position of obeisance, of worship, of idolatry, where we fetishize and worship the institutions, the practices, and the habits that we've inherited. And we operate in a business as usual manner. Or we can engage with these circumstances and seek to transform them.
Changing Africans is not easy. You have to sacrifice yourself to change Africans. It's a lot of work.
And when we seek to transform them, we must then engage in context-smashing approaches and possibilities. Do we embrace, maintain, or do we smash the context, transform, reform, shape it anew? That's the first question, the question of context and contextuality. There's a second question. Philosophers call it the solidaristic question of solidarity. How do we relate with each other?
Being a president is not just being in the office looking good and driving a nice car or being driven. Being a president is being in the field and making things happen. And this is what we're seeing.
And when we consider this, we must appreciate a reality. We can't escape it. We can't run away from it. We need each other. We need each other desperately. We must acknowledge this. Botswana needs Namibia desperately. Namibia needs Botswana desperately. Fact. It's axiomatic. It goes without saying. But there's another corollary reality, and it is this. Despite the fact that we need each other so desperately, we also pose immense dangers to each other. And so in terms of this contradiction, we are pretty much like the proverbial unhappy couple. We can't live together, yet we can't live apart. We must make it work, whether we like it or we don't. And so what do we do? Takes me to my next point, really. And I'm going to be brief with my hurried thoughts. I've said to you, all that needed to be spoken today has already been stated eloquently. I will not ream the magic out of it.
Africa needs more people like this. Africa needs more people like this.
There are two broad types of people. Bruce Lee tells us. In a book, or two books actually, that I stumbled upon. One is called The Tao of Bruce Lee. The other, Letters of the Dragon, pages 115 to 117. Bruce Lee writes a poem there. I don't think you know him to be a poet. But he was more than a poet, he was actually a philosopher, in addition to the other things that he did, for which he is renowned. he asks a profound question. Says, having distinguished two broad types, he says there are doers and doubters. In this poem, he says there are doers and doubters. And he says, which are you? And I pose that question to you, to all of us. Which are we? Are we doers or are we doubters? And he says the doubters said men can't fly. The doers said maybe, but we'll try. And finally soared into the morning glow while the doubters watched from down below. Which are we? Are we doers or are we doubters? When I spoke with the president privately, we agreed, both of us, that our ascendance to the leadership of our two countries has ignited so much hope amongst our people. They look forward, they yearn for change. They have full faith and confidence in our ability to deliver the change. But that is also very dangerous because they are impatient. The people are hungry out there. The people are unclad. They are unhoused. They are unfed. They want to eat. They want to work. They want to eke out a meaningful living within the borders of their countries. The expectations that lie on our shoulders are enormous. And if we sit twiddling our thumbs, consuming ourselves in doubt and misapprehension, we will disappoint those multitudes that have invested so much hope in all of us. We need to respond to their cries, to their pleas, to their conjurations, and we need to respond immediately, decisively, boldly. That's what we are called upon to do, otherwise we will not be fit. So we are challenged every day, every step of advance, to prove our worth and mettle. Are we worthy of the responsibility that has been bestowed on each and every one of us? And so we are called upon now, in a practical manner, to make choices. How do we deploy the limited resources at our disposal? And these resources include yourselves, the personnel, the natural resources, the financial opportunities. How do we mobilize, marshal these in the service of the people that have given us the responsibility to lead them? That's the first. The second is, and this is a requirement of strategy. They'll teach you this when they teach you strategy. Choice. What choices do you make? Choose to be a doubter. Choose to be a doer. A lot turns on the choices that we make or we fail to make. Errors both of commission and of omission. We need to be alive to these realities if we are to be of any impact at all. The second is empathy. In strategy, you need to have empathy. You need to consider the feelings and the interests of the others. In this case, Botswana must consider the feelings, the sentiments, and the interests of Namibia. And Namibia must do the same. It speaks to what I will call plausible complementarity between these two nations. Plausible complementarity. Botswana must complement Namibia, Namibia must complement Botswana. Not just in talk, in word, but in action, in deed. So all the sermons that you preach must now be translated into reality. They must be enacted in the lives of real people, those on the downside of your societies, those in the dumps catching hell. Your choices, your actions must translate into something meaningful for them to transform their lives. Empathy. The third is alliance, solidarity. These opportunities for cooperation, collaboration. Some of them new, some of them untried and untested. And when any person is confronted with untried and untested opportunities for collaboration, they recoil and they default into what they know and what they have done. But what we know and what we've done, the bulk of it hasn't worked or worked as well as we thought it would. So we are forced to reflect even on those routinized and collectivized, stylized forms of action and thought patterns, to review them, cast aside some of them, and bring into existence radically new approaches and strategies that will work for both countries, for other countries in the region, for the continent, and for the world. So we need to strengthen our alliance. Botswana, Namibia. What does this entail? We must avoid unnecessary competition. Botswana must not seek to outcompete Namibia. Namibia must not seek to outcompete Botswana. There must be objective, plausible complementarity between these two neighbor states. What are we competing on? Namibia is a beef-producing country. Botswana is a beef-producing country. There's no need for any competition between these two countries. Namibia has a population of about 3 million, Botswana 2.5. What are we competing on? There is need for collaboration, for coming together, for coalescing around common goals, visions, and outcomes. And so when Botswana fails to meet its quota to the EU because its national herd has drastically diminished, Namibia must step in and fill the gap. That's plausible complementarity. When Namibia cries out to Botswana and says, your policies in relation to cement have adversely affected my people, Botswana must pause, reflect, its empathy, and say, how do I accommodate the interests of Namibia in order for Namibia to also accommodate my own interest? That's the plausible complementarity I'm talking about. The fourth element, cause and effect. These actions that we undertake, what determinate outcomes do they bring? Not what we, in our suppositions and presuppositions, think. What does reality bear out? Human causality. That's what we need to look at this level as leaders of an emerging continent that is the future of the world. Otherwise, we are too weak to be at the helm, at the front. We've got to justify our being as that emerging continent, the leaders of the now frontier. So we must know the best that is known and think the best that is thought in the world. We must become thought leaders on the African continent. We're not begging to be recognized. We claim our place. We say, you are forced to look at us. You are forced to listen to us. We're not begging. We're not negotiating. We are staking our claim to the leadership of the world as Africans. And the last issue for me is time. We're not going to be talking for an inordinate amount of time. All these decisions, these discussions must be operationalized. They must be time-bound. We must put down timelines, strict timelines, and stick to those timelines. Because we have a revolution to effect on the African continent, in our countries. And a revolution is not endless. It's not amorphous. It's not shapeless. And a revolution is sometimes convulsive. Causes ruptures, it causes uncertainty, it causes discomfort. It's a revolution, that's what it is. And it is not indeterminate. It has to achieve outcomes within a period of time. And so, many of these programs that we are looking at here, these memoranda that we will sign, how much time do we have before we see tangible results, sounding in jobs, in improved livelihoods, in improved infrastructure, in enhanced opportunities for growth and collaboration? How much time are we ascribing to them? These are the elements, in my humble view, that will enable us to provide formidable answers to the problem of context and contextuality, question the challenge of solidarity, and that will determine whether we are doubters or doers. I am a doer. I am a doer unapologetically. And I must be honest, sometimes you people frustrate me. I must tell you the truth. Sometimes I get frustrated by you, public officers, with your rigidities, your routinized sluggishness, your reticence, your inability to respond instantly, decisively, boldly, objectively to pressing and trenchant problems. Because you recoil and you fall back on what has happened before, regardless of the fact that it has not worked. So sometimes I get frustrated by yourselves. You are too formal. That's why you refer to yourselves as excellencies and all these other titles. I'm just a boy. And I'm a boy to everybody. No formalities. Because I want us to focus on the real issues.
This president is brand new. You can clearly see he's trying to make a very strong impact. He doesn't want to leave office and say, oh, we should have done this, we could have done this, we would have done this. He wants to be impactful. This is clear. He wants the army to be strong. He wants his people protected.
Appreciating that we are all subject to human frailties, foibles, and fallibilities. We know that. We're human. We're not deities. And so when we engage, we must engage alive to all these simple realities. Botswana and Namibia. The airline in Namibia has collapsed. The Namibian airline. Air Botswana is on the verge of collapse. Botswana has 2.5 million people. Namibia about 3 million. What can these two countries do in the area of airline transportation? What can they do? The both of them. Not in competition. Objective, plausible, complementarity. What can they do? It's a question I throw to you. Because I have full faith and confidence that you will provide the answer. When are we starting work on the Trans-Kalahari rail line? And the pipelines, the oil pipelines that we must build. opening up frontiers of trade amongst ourselves and into the rest of the continent, under the aegis of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. When are we translating these sermons into lived reality for our people? Let me stop right here. Thank you very much for the pleasure of your attention.
Let me know how you feel about this, fellas. It's always a great pleasure. God bless.